All right, it's spinning. Okay, I will call the meeting to order at 6:08. And if I could get a roll call, please, when you're ready.
Senator Waldman here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chair Madrigal, for letting us take that moment. 6:08. Okay, roll call. Chair Madrigal here, and Vice Chair Julian
Here.
And just for the record, we did think you were going to be absent today, so thank you for being here today. Review Board Member Ian Roth.
Present.
And Review Board Member Alan Sanders.
Present.
Thank you. And for the record, there is one county staff planner available today, and that is myself, Jessie Waldman, acting as the executive secretary as well as presenting.
And I should note that this is a special meeting of August 12th. And did we do the determination of legal notice?
Yes, we have proper noticing.
Thank you. Moving on to the approval of minutes. I would like to take the approval of minutes as a group, the three of them, March 4th, April 8th, and June 3rd. Are there any comments or
No, I don't mind.
whatever about the minutes?
No.
There was one that I was not at, but you guys looked over it, so I'm gonna see if those are good. Is there any comments from the public on the minutes?
All in approval?
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do you have a second?
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, the minutes are all approved for the 4th, 8th, and 3rd. Thank you for getting those. So, is there any correspondence outside of the agendized items?
There has been, of course, one phone call, and I believe that the questions were answered, and they may be here during public expression. Not sure.
Okay, thank you. Report from the chair. I don't have one today. We did meet previous to this meeting for site visits on two of the items, and we'll be discussing that shortly. And I think that is it on that one. And so, I don't want to get my hopes up that we're going quickly. Moving on to agenda item 7, this is public expression. The review board welcomes participation in its meetings. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and not more than 10 for a subsequent agenda item, so that everyone may be heard. Public expression items are limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the review board that are not on today's meeting agenda and that were not previously considered by the review board. So this is for items that we're not going to be talking about later. Is there anyone that would like to speak just on public comment? Go ahead. And if you wouldn't mind stating your name.
My name is Simone Casais, and I'd like to talk about the action that took place during the June 3rd MHR board meeting, particularly the structure on 45081 Cato Street, owners Carrie and Peter Markovich, agent Kelly Rimes. The request by the owners and agent were to install a sliding glass door on the second level of the structure. The board approved the sliding glass doors even when informed that they were not permitted in town. I feel that the owner should be compelled to remove the sliding glass doors and replace them with good French doors, which is preferable and appropriate for the town. Section 7, number 4 of the town plan document states that sliding glass doors are unacceptable. So I wonder why the board sought to approve them anyway. During February 6, 2017 MHRD meeting, the owner of 45090 Main Street, the site of Sally Stewart's former salon, the owners were informed that a French door was appropriate for the second level balcony. Instead, the owners installed a sliding glass door. During the June 5th of the same year, 2017, MHRD meeting, that same year the owners tried to ask forgiveness to keep the sliders. and the request was denied. And glass doors were replaced with French doors, which was the correct decision. So there is precedence to compel the owners of the Cato property to replace the sliders with appropriate wood doors. And so I would urge the board to reverse that decision.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that's here to speak to an item not on the agenda? Go ahead, Mr. Sachs.
Good evening, my name's Rick Sachs, and I had a couple of situations that I think could be coming up that I'd love to have the review board bring to discussion and consider and come to a position on it. The first one is thinking about if there's a sign that's already approved in Mendocino, and the business is moving to a new location where there's already been a sign approved and all of the qualifications for the sign fit and it would normally be approved, but it doesn't qualify as a copy change on an existing sign. It's moving something that already exists to a different location. It'd be nice to see a way of that happening that's simple and affordable. The other situation that comes to mind is similar. If somebody in town, as far as I know, the board approved a certain set of colors from the historic chart that somebody can change the color of their building to and not need to go before the review board process if they use the approved colors. The current verbiage on a copy change on an existing sign says same colors. And I'd love to see it considered that if somebody wanted to do a copy change on the sign and we're gonna use some of the existing, the colors on the approved list for houses, that could apply to signs also. Is that understood and sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much. Is there anyone else that wants to speak to an item that's not on the posted agenda? Okay, we're going to move on to 8A. This is the consent calendar. Let's see, so items on the consent calendar can be approved in one motion. Let's see. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent calendar for further discussion? So this includes the sign shop. Is that it? Yeah.
Just one. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone want to pull that for discussion?
No.
Okay, so let me clarify. Okay, so this is the sign shop where there will be.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to
So
describe it?
if no review board members would like to hold the
Yeah.
item, then the chair would open it up to public expressions for, I skipped a page. So if there's any board member that wants to pull an item from the consent calendar, we would do that, but there's not. So then you move it to public hearing and you allow the public, if there's anybody from the public that has any discussion on any of the consent items. So that would be your next step. And then based on any public comment that you have, then you would.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that the item that is on the consent calendar is replacing a sign that says blooming with a previously approved sign that says Nahara.
So by doing that, you're pulling the item from the.
Am I saying what it is? No. Anyway, okay. Anyway, that's what it is.
Okay.
So, is there any public that would like to speak to this item? public hearing for this is the consent calendar. Minutes, etc. Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna bring it back up here for a motion.
Motion to approve case number MHRB 2024-0007. Second that.
Got a second. Lopez, could I get a roll call vote, please?
Okay, so, review board members
Yes.
and Chair Madrigal.
Yes.
And no no's.
Okay, public hearing. So this is item 9A, MHRB 2023-0010. This is Patterson's Pub in Mendocino. Could I have, let's see. So this is a request to permanently assemble a 1,600 square foot pergola for outdoor dining at Patterson's Pub. This site is a designated category 3 historical resource. The architecture has been ostensibly altered, but the basic structure remains discernible on the property located at 10485 Lansing Street and 10501 Lansing Street, I believe is what that is. Staff, did you want to present?
Yes. Go from there now. Honorable from Mendocino County Planning and Building Services, and we did our staff report, or our site visit today earlier, where the board members and the agents and the applicants, as well as members from the public, were in attendance. And the proposed project is to requesting the permission to install a 40-foot by 40-foot pergola that will be made out of steel posts and trusses at the perimeter of the pergola, and it will have a mesh permeable roofing type material that will limit the amount of moisture that can come through to the outdoor dining area. The parcel that the pergola will be installed on is adjacent to Patterson's Pub, located on the Spring Pond property. The structure will be approximately 2 feet away from the existing Harvest Market building and approximately 8 feet north of the existing Patterson's Pub. It will be approximately 12 feet tall, and there is proposed landscaping around each of the columns to help screen the pergola. The applicant, prior to the hearing, did submit, and I believe that each one of the board members, you've received an in-color and a black and white picture proposal of what the actual structure itself is. It's comprised of 4 different components to equal the 40-foot by 40-foot pergola area. So the screening, the permeable roofing material will allow hard downpours. It will act as to come through the structure, but it will prevent fog, drizzle, and also create shade for the outdoor dining area. And it is behind the screening area. And let me take a look at my staff report very quickly. And I believe that there are 2 additional conditions recommended by staff, and that they are also required to do that as part of their use permit that they have on the site for the Patterson's Pub to have an outdoor dining seat on the adjacent parcel. That is the exterior lighting, including string lighting, shall be shielded, reflected downward, positioned in a manner that does not allow light or glare to extend beyond property lines. There is no lighting proposed on the outside of this pergola. And then also that the noise ordinance that is regulated through the Mendocino County General Plan, Table 3J for noise level standards shall be adhered to. And that's just to ensure the community environment. And staff does is excited to present to you the first permanent replacement option to the tents that we've had for the last 4 years. So this is the first one to come up as a potential option for the board to review. And if you have any questions, I am available.
Can you just also mention the letter from the water district?
They did receive a letter from a water district that they have been reporting. That letter is dated on March 13, 2003. I
Yeah,
think
just
they have a
receipt.
typo in the date. It actually should be 2024 because it does reflect that in February of this year that the Patterson's Pub has been satisfactory with the water board and they've been doing their monthly reporting with Mendocino City Community Services District.
Thank you. Are there any board questions of staff before the applicant? Okay, I'm going to welcome the applicant if you'd like to add to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing that, I really appreciate it. Tony Graham on behalf of Spring Pond Properties, also known as Harvest Market. Jennifer Bosma is in the back row. She's the principal behind Harvest Market, along with Tom Honer and her husband. I represent both myself, Patterson's Pub, and Harvest Market on this particular project since it's on their property. Here also is my wife Mary Ann and Jeannie Dobbins, the general manager of the pub. I just want to give you just a touch of historic background. The pandemic turned everything upside down as we know it, and in October of 2020, I applied to the board, the only person who had done it in town, for my tent. And after a hearing, I got unanimous approval for the tent with all of the necessary findings in accordance with the historic ordinance. Doesn't detract from the appearance issues, both of those criteria. The tent went up, a couple of years went by, pandemic was lifted, and something had to be done with the tents. Nobody knew quite what to do. So the Board of Supervisors in September of last year convened up at St. Anthony's Church. Half the town was there, everyone was ballyhooing all day long. And the supervisor said, we don't know what to do with this hot potato. So they kicked the can down the road another year. Well, guess what? That year is up next month. And in that interim, the county and the tent people, and the restaurants, and anybody else who's interested is supposed to come up with a solution. Well, we're almost to the end of the year and there's no solution. So earlier this year, I happened to be down in Marin County at a large garden nursery, and I walked in and looked up and I said, there's the solution, a pergola. It is an open air structure. There's photos of it here, and you've got them on your table. There's corner posts, there's a frame around the top, and the top is covered with a permeable sun shade. It's not a roof, it's a permeable sun shade. This shade is important, not just for aesthetic reasons, but it provides 96% UV sun protection. And this is outdoor dining, and admittedly some days are foggy and some days are cloudy, but it does provide that level of protection. Secondly, it also provides wind protection. This is the company that manufactures it, and the reading says up to 96% UV block. Wind protection. That's why I tested it, I like it. In a stiff wind, it filters it, it diffuses the wind. It does the very same thing with fog. And if you hold this under the kitchen sink, it diffuses the water. Yes, it does come through. And for that reason, I want to retain the umbrellas in the pub so that your french fries don't get soggy. It's to protect the pub diners, and it is for ambiance. It's, you know, the tent looks pretty good inside. I got a lot of compliments about what a nice scene it is in there. The reason for the 12 feet in height is to provide the necessary clearance for the heaters. I have to have space between the top of the propane heaters and this sunshade, so obviously for fire reasons. And by the way, the sunshade is also fire rated, approved by the county and the state and by the federal government. It's approved for use in Europe, Australia, all around the world. Again, it's not a roof, it's a sunshade, it's permeable, so it doesn't, lot coverage is not an issue. As you well know, there's the 25% lot coverage issue, which really isn't within your purview. That's Jesse's world. But that's how we're dealing with the lot coverage issue. All of the plants and the vegetation surrounding this pergola, mostly on the east side and the west side, are 12 feet high. So the pergola from the east is not visible at all. From the north, you can't see it because of the building. On the south, it's my building, and you can't see it. You can't see through the buildings. The west is the only issue. About half to 2/3 of it's covered by a large 12-foot bush. Northern portion of it, I did plant about 6-8 months ago some princess flowers, which are growing, and eventually they'll cover that whole corner. All of the plantings are irrigated, maintained professionally. It's not just something we put in there for the time being. Drip irrigation is all through the area. If you have any questions of me, you were there, so you kind of know the project. Let me, if you don't mind, I'll hand you, this is the product. This is not the color, but this is the product. I can see Holly through it, and I can see Julian, but this is it. And then the color is this lower one in the right-hand corner. It's called a neutral color. The reason for a neutral color is during the day, I do want it to have daylight shining through to illuminate the area underneath the pergola, as opposed to black, which would just turn it into a cave down there.
And currently the proposal is for the rust color, correct? So
It is for the rust
pictures
color.
show the black. Yeah.
It can be painted any color. I can paint it white, black, purple, pink. I chose the rust because it is a neutral color.
Did you choose rust because it resembles wood? The color of wood, or just
No, it
because
was
it's a
just
neutral
a-
color?
it was just
Because
a
white's a
neutral
neutral color.
Yeah, I could have chosen white. I mean, it's somewhat your call. If you don't like the rust color, I can do it in white, or something else.
And will this be switched, if it does get approved, will that be switched out yearly, and what's the lifespan?
Oh, years. I mean,
Years.
It'll be there for years. And it's pretty much indestructible.
Yeah.
Are there any questions here? We'll bring it back up after the public comment. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So I am going to open the public hearing on this. If you'd like to speak to the Patterson's Pub application, please come up to the podium and state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to address their comments to the board, and staff will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining. Is there anyone that wants to speak to this item?
Hello, I'm Deborah Lennox. I'm actually a consultant working with Tony. I did the plot plan, but he did the whole design and choice of the materials and whatnot. I took this project on because I want to encourage the resolution of this covered dining, exterior dining issue in this town. I think it's really a benefit to the town. My office is on Main Street, so I go out and eat all the time. I always eat outside. And so the pandemic has kind of changed the way I think of going to a restaurant, and I enjoy, the being outdoors. So I also am I've talked to other people with the tents, and it has been such a challenge to come up with, every site is different, but to come up with something that would actually perhaps be acceptable. So I think that Tony's pergola solution, by being permeable, answers the 25% problem, and then having it be mostly screened, I think is what's appealing to me, because the current tent is 25 feet high at the top of its tallest center post, and this will be 12 feet, which is about level with the awning windows along the side of the Harvest building. So it'll line up with the buildings, an architectural element on that building, and then you can't see from these pictures, but the hedges that Tony was talking about are truly 12 feet high. So that one corner is going to be the only part that is visible, but it's also got layers of shrubbery in front of it. So to me, it becomes subservient to the architecture on the site. So that's one of the things we try to look for, is our accessory buildings to be lesser of a presence. So to me, this presence seems, to the eye, seems fairly benign. And then I'll just read into the record, because this is my philosophy about building in the architectural historical district, and it's in the intent of the design guidelines. And the intent of the design guidelines is to provide a range of design choices which will encourage development that is compatible with the existing or desired character of the area, and which will discourage the introduction of incompatible elements of design or building style. Present-day designs and materials are encouraged when used in a manner which is compatible with the sense of the past that is being preserved. It is not the intent of these guidelines to return the town to a bygone era, nor is it the intent to create an artificial atmosphere or to invite mimicry that will only caricature the past. The intent is to preserve and protect the special character and identity of Mendocino. So I think that the subservient nature of the scale of the pergola and it fits in with the architectural continuity of Lansing Street. So, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? I'd be surprised, okay.
Wow.
Okay, go ahead.
I applaud the use of the sun,
Sorry, we might take your
Simone
name again.
Science. I applaud the use of the sun protection and the impervious nature of the cloth, but I think it's very unattractive. And I don't think it fits with the town at all. And also I question the metal poles, can't we use wood?
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item?
If I could clarify one item.
Sure, you wanted to clarify the wood?
I just want to mention that I'm planning on covering the posts with a vine, either jasmine or honeysuckle, or something like that. And I did neglect to mention that the tent is currently 25 feet high and the pergola is going to be 12.
And you mentioned at the site visit that you explored a timber frame, a similar timber frame structure, and that it was, the spans were...
Yeah, to engineer a full-on, full-dimensional timbered pergola would create a pretty massive structure up there. And my intent was to make it somewhat de minimis, as opposed to this beams as big as this to span 40 feet. And now we've got a major construction project going on. The pergola is pre-engineered, it's fire rated, it's been used all around, and it's shielded from the street. It'll be covered in vines and you won't even know it's there.
Have you looked at like putting redwood cladding around the?
That is a distinct possibility, Julian. Yeah, maybe the corner post facing Lansing Street, I could clad in.
Like thin redwood?
Yes, yeah. The posts are 4x4. I could do a 6x6 on the corner post facing Lansing Street. I would have no problem with
Because my concern is that we, you know, we're looking for a solution. I mean, that if this gets approved, this is gonna be the, you know, go-to design around town. Next thing you know, we got, you know, 15 pergolas, and then you're driving down the hill, and that's all you see is pergolas, you know what I mean? I mean, not to that extent, but that's the idea. So putting our best foot forward to try to keep in that wood, you know, style. It just seems like if there's a possibility, if you've looked at it again, good to know.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I did consider it as a possibility to get a solution to this problem for the tent problem. If I could clad the posts that face Lansing Street in red. The posts are 4x4, I think I could make it. I could do it 6x6 and screw it all together. Sure, that's doable.
So I think what I'd like to do is bring it up here. I'm going to close the public hearing. She says slowly, just in case I'm and bring it up here. Julian, do you want to add anything to those comments?
No, but I'd like to hear from my fellow board members.
Do you guys have thoughts?
I'll go first. I think, first of all, I've always said that this is a question of outside dining rather than tent or not tent. And we know that outside dining is attractive and it gets people here, it makes money and everything else. So the question is how do you find a solution? I commend Mr. Tony for finding something at least, which I wasn't sure anyone would actually come up with something, so that's good. I do think the Lansing Street piece is a little obvious, so I think we need to do something to cover that, whether it's clad it, paint it white, grow vines over or whatever. So I think that needs to be disguised, and there probably needs to be something in conditions from our discussions recently that makes it clear that there needs to be some vegetation there, and the vegetation needs to be maintained to screen as much of it as it can. So those are my comments.
I'll weigh in. Thank you, Julian, for bringing up the cladding. Within our findings, we have A, B, and C on the staff report. A is the exterior appearance and design of the proposed work is in harmony with the exterior appearance and design of existing structures within the district and with that of the existing subject structure. B is the appearance of the proposed work will not detract from the appearance of other property within the district. A metal pergola doesn't, there's nothing Mendocino about that to me. I could go with, as per your example, clad, but I don't want to see the entire thing clad. I don't want to see any metal structure at all. So I think that the metal structure, again, as Julian put forthright, this, if approved, is going to set the precedent for at least the other 3 properties that have tents, and who knows whatever else comes down the pipe. A metal structure doesn't fit into my vernacular. Entirely clad in wood would be a lot more preferable. And I do applaud the permeability of this. We don't need any more hardened surface. So. The other thing that I'm curious about is if this is fire rated, 12 feet seems excessive, in my opinion. 8 foot would come down onto the heaters, 10 foot would be something that would probably be a lot more de minimis, and not quite as in your face. My 2 cents.
Well, 10 feet would interfere with the umbrellas.
How so? The umbrellas are at 8 foot.
Probably taller, yeah. I think they're 9.
So 9 is less than 10, right?
Well,
My math.
So
It just seems like 12 foot goes right under the eave of the pub and right over the windows of Harvest. And it seems like a de minimis structure would be less than right under the eave and right over the window. I'd like to see 10 foot rather than 12, but I'm just one vote.
Can I get some opinions
Do-
on the color from you guys? When we were out there at the site visit, you know, the trim of all the surrounding buildings are all white, but I think the intent of the applicant is to have this disappear, right? Shrubbery and not stand out, and so in that sense, like, if it was redwood, it would fade to that gray color. I would just love to know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, kind of going back to Tony being the first to propose a structure and us, you know, debating it. I mean, if other businesses do get this structure and we demand that they have shrubbery and it just seems like it's just gonna be, it's not every single business is going to follow the rules of covering these structures. So I think like figuring out a color is great, and figuring out if it needs to be metal or wood is also going to be important. But I mean, if we decided for it to be metal and maybe we diminish the color choices to rust or white or black, you know, it just seems like there's a lot of gray area, and there's not as much enforcement around town. So if we make a decision here, it needs to look right, I think. And I don't know if that answered any of your questions, but like what I think I'm on Ian's side of wood being a great answer. I'm not trying to not have a pergola there. I mean, what I'm looking at in front of me does not look like Mendocino, but I think we could maybe get some, we could advance it to a place where it could be, you know. And let's say a plant dies. I mean, plants die in my garden almost every other month, and you know, sometimes it's like, I don't even know what happened. You know, did I overwater? Did I underwater? And then the next thing you know, it's going to take a full year for a vine to come back up to guard the metal pergola from you. So
I do wonder about that because, you know, we were discussing requiring this like vegetative screening, but there's only so much of, you know, to an extent, there's only, that could be the intention of the applicant, but yeah, there are sort of situations that happen. Yeah.
I mean, is the wood painted? Is it stained? I mean, does it matter?
No, to me it doesn't. I mean, there's plenty of redwood that's stained, there's plenty of redwood that isn't stained. The fact that if it were to be clad in wood, redwood, what have you, it would have the appearance of something other than a metal pergola structure that is, and again, I mean, we have required MHRD findings. It's the appearance and design of the proposed work is in harmony with the exterior appearance and design of existing structures. There are no other steel structures on Lansing.
Light
Post and a flue off of the Marin Country Store. That's about it. But I mean, if we want to talk about harmony, I can't make finding A or B without it being clad.
Well, I believe the applicant is open to cladding it.
And my feeling is not just the two vertical posts on Lansing, but the entire structure. And that way you don't have the appearance of a steel structure in the middle of a historic district.
I mean, is the applicant able to speak about cladding the entire structure? Is that something that you're open to? Or is it?
Well, I mean, I'm certainly amenable to cladding the posts. That's not really a major thing. There is the issue of this little, what's the architectural term for this?
Truss.
The truss. This whole thing's gonna be covered in vines anyhow. Do you want the truss covered also?
I mean, vines come and go. And during the wintertime, they lose their flowers, they lose their leaves. I don't want to see metal. And part of our design, I mean, yes, Deborah, thank you for pointing out that we shouldn't be excluding new technologies, but at the same time, if we have to have a finding that it's in harmony with the exterior appearance and design of existing structures, I don't see a metal pergola being in harmony with existing structures. So I would like to see the entirety of that clad. which is a lot cheaper and less engineering than making it totally out of wood, which I'll go with the new construction techniques, the new technology. I don't want to see it.
Okay, I mean, that's your call as a board member.
Yep.
Just as a reminder, the Shell building roof is all metal.
Not for long.
Well, you know, I mean, that's,
But that's a whole different thing, and that was put in as it was. So, but that would be the only thing that would be metal, and that is going away on a field.
if, I mean, I'd be willing to go ahead and clad the trusses and posts, if that meets with your satisfaction, that'd be great. I really want to try to keep the 12 feet though, because 12 feet puts it perfectly along the side of the Harvest Market building, so that there isn't,
It blocks the windows.
no, it's above the window.
It's above, so the windows are no longer.
Oh,
Uh,
no, the windows are there.
The 12 feet, did we decide that that was on the top end?
Yeah.
Of the building? So the windows won't be visible from the street any longer.
And the light from the street won't be coming into.
I want to disagree slightly. So these are posts, and there's an 8-foot setback
2.
from, from the harvest side?
Yes.
2 feet from the harvest side?
24
So
inches.
so it is going to
Okay,
be outside,
So
and
it's
so there'll be one post
Yeah.
visible, like until shrubs grow up. There's one post that will be in the sight line of the windows.
That makes sense.
It is an open structure.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no walls.
Right. Although cladding it will add visual weight to the,
Yeah, I can make the cladding out of 1 by 106.
Yeah.
Just
Right, wood.
screw it together. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And you see our point here with like not being able to see metal in construction.
I get it. My whole intent was to disguise it with vegetation. If you see the vegetation I have, and it's well maintained.
Mhm.
okay, would you want to take a stab at a motion?
I'd be happy to, since I'm the one who raised the issue.
Okay,
I'll let go of my 10-foot. My request would be the 10-foot, but I'm not gonna, I'll take what I can get. And that would be to approve application HRB 2023-010, adding a requirement, a condition that all metal be clad in redwood, so there is no visible metal.
From the outside. Or the
No
inside.
visible metal,
From the
Period.
inside as well.
period.
I'm not clear on your motion.
Not clear?
There's two.
Sorry, I just wanted to
I
clarify,
want-
because I think it's important that we get this right.
Yeah, my motion is to clad all exposed metal with wood.
Well, I mean, this is inside the building. I mean, is there?
I guess we don't have purview on the inside of things, although this
Is this a building?
Well, it's a structure. It's a structure.
So,
So, I mean, this is a structure, but what is done inside here
do we have purview of the inside?
Do you have?
Purview
you
of the
have
inside or an outside
purview of
structure?
anything that's visible from the exterior of the area. So what people see is what the MHRB has purview over. So there's screening that is proposed. There is screening that is required as part of the use permit for the
Mhm.
Patterson's Pub to have outdoor
vegetation,
dining,
yes.
whether it is covered or not.
Mhm.
And that buffer that is there, the existing buffer, which only covers part of that screening. So if I'm standing across the street in the right of way of Lansing Street, it's what you see,
Mhm.
is what the board has.
And if I'm walking up Lansing Street, in front of Emerson Spot, and I see
It
pretty
is
much all of
an
it.
exterior alteration to the site with, there are exceptions, but pergolas are a brand new,
Animal.
they're not a brand new animal. There is accessory structures, there are wood pergolas throughout the town of Mendocino, there are pergolas. There are canopies that are over front doors of buildings that are metal frames that have fabric, which is not historical material, and you can see the metal frame. So there's lots of different types of awnings and covered areas or shaded areas that are allowed in the town of Mendocino. Direct shot across on a perfect elevation, maybe you won't see metal, but other ones you're walking underneath awnings and you will see metal, and they are allowed. So I'm going to say that if there's a view and it's affecting an exterior alteration, the board has an opinion on that. Without sounding like I'm going up here.
You said that that's what you'd
It's
like.
big though, I mean, it's bigger than.
If you can see it from the outside, then it's under a purview. So I would like to see the pergola encased in wood.
Okay, did we end with the remainder of the findings about screening and light and all of that?
As presented.
Is there a second?
I second that.
I just want to add, I just want to thank you guys for, however this vote goes, I just want to thank you for coming forward. Julie, you're absolutely correct that it is first, but we also will have, this board will have input and direction on, say, when it comes forward with a non-permeable roof. You know, that may in fact be coming down the pipe as well, so.
Could I have possibly the motion read again?
David?
Make sure I understand
Absolutely.
it before I sit down.
Okay, if you want to wait, because they're not quite done discussing, but I will state the conditions clearly for the record.
So my comment is that we always talk about this, and really, I don't necessarily like to be driven by precedent, because we get back into all sorts of stuff we shouldn't. So we should try and do that, but we are not necessarily bound to follow precedent. So when someone else comes in with something slightly different, we don't actually have to do exactly what we do. That's my opinion.
Be differential, but not.
No, yeah, I mean, it's a good guideline, but it doesn't mean to say that everyone has to do this. Could be totally different. That's fine.
Okay, so Planner Woman, would you mind rereading the motion, please?
Okay, so the motion on the table made by Roth and seconded by Lopez is to approve the project with the conditions within the staff report with an added condition that states, the frame shall be clad,
In wood.
sorry, I crossed things up. The frame shall be clad in wood at all exposed metal frames. That's not right. The frame shall be cladded,
In wood.
exposed metal shall be cladded in wood.
Yes. Is that what you said there?
The vegetation, can you repeat the vegetation requirements for this particular?
I think it has to do with the provisions of actually using the space which were in place prior to this permit.
I may,
It'd be
if I
visually
may,
screened by the street, from the street, excuse me. Go ahead.
if I may, I may have a printout of the use permit for the screening that, that is required for the use permit that was done in
1996.
1996. I may have a copy of that, I
That's
just have to
fine.
open it up.
That's fine.
I don't think we need to open it up, but suffice it to say that their existing use permit
Yeah.
requires.
I'll second that.
Okay, could I get a roll call vote, please?
Okay, so all in favor with the added condition for all exposed metal shall be cladded in wood. And that, I believe, would be condition number 8.
And I'd
Correct.
like roll call versus all in favor.
Yes. And so, we have a motion by Roth, a second by Lopez, and then I will go Sanders.
Aye.
Hold on, Madrigal,
Aye.
and Roth,
Aye.
and Lopez.
Aye.
And that takes care of that, so approved with the condition. This project is appealable within the next 10 days, as stated within the bottom of the staff report. And
What's the appeal fee?
the appeal fee currently is $2,674, and it's made payable to the county of Mendocino. And there is an application that is required to be submitted to the, board, and that closes this case.
Why was it started at 6 and not 7?
Oh, 6 o'clock was the new time that was decided. That,
And that was part of the changes in the bylaws that we made a couple meetings ago.
yeah.
In concert with trying to streamline.
Yeah, costs and the meeting. Okay, so I'm going to move on to item number 9B. This is, actually, I can take we can take just like a 5-minute break if anyone needs to exit.
I would like that.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break, we'll start 5 after.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna call us back to order. Yes, at 6 after 7 for agenda item 9B. So this is MHRB 2024-003, Tom Colson, Mendocino Village Inn. And before we start, I'm going to turn this over to Chair Baldwin.
You are actually going to turn it over to the
Staff.
board. Your board.
Okay, I'm turning this
you need-
over to the board
you need-
because we need to make a decision, but you said you wanted to describe what was happening.
So I think what we have to do is that the board, the board members need to make an announcement.
Okay.
So I have to recuse myself from this matter, item.
So
Due to my proximity, I run a business due to the proximity of the address.
So, and I'm the same way, I have a business that I've got real property within 500 feet of this application. So, because of that,
There's an exception.
Yes. So now what we have is we have 2 board members who may have a potential conflict of interest. And we only have 4 board members on our board at this time. So we do have review board member positions open if you'd like to be interested. But in 2020, on February 28th, the Mendocino County Council provided information on what to do and how to maintain the conflict of interest, and also about maintaining a quorum. And so this is the protocol for the county staff to provide to the staff.
and you're reading from a memo prepared by county council.
By county council, and it's dated February 2020.
28,
February
2020.
28th of 2020, and I did not have it in my golden box, but I will next month. Okay. So, what you have to, the board members need to state what you've already stated what the potential conflict is, and one is a landowner and one is a business operator. Okay. I've never seen these before, so give me a minute. Without 3 MHRB members participating, the board would not have a quorum for the agenda. Following the procedures in the California Code of Regulations, there is a rule where we can pull straws. And the person who would pull the shortest straw would recuse and exit the room during the hearing, and then the person holding the longer straw would maintain the quorum but have no input, participation, questions, or participation in voting. And that would eliminate the conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest interest, and it would maintain a quorum for the project to be heard. And so, let's say that if there was 2 voting members present, and they made a tie vote, 1 for and 1 against, that third member would not be able to slide, and it would be a tie, and the project would be continued. And so if you were ready,
The person with the long straw gets to sit and watch and shut their mouth.
I just decided that the person with the long straw would stay, and they would remain, present,
but not
but not
contribute.
participating in conversation and or voting.
Okay.
So, because the agent is here, and this is what we've been provided to us from Coco, do you accept the pulling of straws?
Yes.
Okay,
They don't have points anymore.
he's
Go
the
ahead.
vice chair, you're a board member,
you-
who goes first?
He goes first. This is fun. All right.
So,
That's the long
Let's do it
straw.
again.
All right.
Hold the short straw, so I'm out.
so you're,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
Okay.
But don't go too far.
Julian, we'll call you back in.
Yeah.
And I apologize that I don't actually have straws or
I
possible
think that's-
sticks.
Improvise.
Thank you, Pointer Wolfman, and thank you for the public. This is our first time doing this, but because we're in a community of such close proximity, this will likely happen again. Okay, so I'm going to introduce this item, which is a request for exterior alterations at the existing Mendocino Village Inn, including a change of paint colors, rebuilding and deteriorated wood fencing, relocating existing water tanks and installing screening, rebuilding the front porch and stairs to match, existing handrail with exception of paint colors, replace existing handrails with new metal handrails, and remove 2 existing fireplaces and chimneys, and replace the chimneys with brick veneer to match the existing chimney design. This is a Category 1 historic resource, the McCormick House, built in 1882, and it's currently a visitor serving facility known as the Mendocino Village Inn. So, staff, do you have anything to add?
I do not have anything to add.
Okay, I'll just say that we did a site visit at this property earlier today. Does the applicant have anything to add after the site visit?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, I'm gonna open this up to the public. Was there anyone that would like to speak to this item, to this application? Feel free to come on up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Judith Brown, and I've had a home in Mendocino for over 30 years, and I'm the previous owner of Mendocino Village Inn. My husband and I bought it over 20 years ago, and with him passing away many years ago, I tried to keep it up, and with the pandemic, it was very difficult on my own as I'm getting up in years. I love the building. It's a beautiful historical building, and I feel very fortunate that I found Tom to purchase the building from me, and he has been nothing but cooperative, done beautiful things inside, and now what he wants to do outside, it just goes to my heart. And so I just want to speak that I'm so excited about him preserving this beautiful historical building that my husband and I loved for so many years. And I just had, because I live part in San Francisco, so I came up today to be here for this, because I just wanted the board to know. I think Tom is a wonderful man, and what he's doing I think is so beautiful for the town, because I love Mendocino. And I'm really excited about the things he wants to do and preserving this building. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you so much for stewarding this property all these years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we don't have any other public, so I'm me to bring it up here.
I-
Do you have any questions?
No, it's a very interesting piece of history, and I'm glad you told me that, because that just reinforces what I thought, that this is really, looks like a very special piece of work that he's doing, so I think
It's a really beautiful home, and
it's beautiful.
it was nice
It'll
to,
be a great improvement.
yeah, to look at the aspects that they're fixing up, and it's gonna look really lovely.
Yeah.
I think when they're done. So would you like to make a motion to that
I
effect?
just make a motion that we approve whatever the number is, I can never remember.
Yes. 2024-003 with all the conditions
With all
listed.
the conditions I said, yep.
I need a second.
I believe I need to call roll,
Okay,
call vote.
go for it.
Wait a minute. Yes,
And Saunders
yes.
and Madrigal.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we have a member present for the quorum, and we have another member who is recused.
Very good.
So that passes.
Good job.
Would you want to go tell Julian and Jen about it? Thank you so much, Becky. Okay.
Thank you for allowing that transition to
I
occur.
almost, I apologize for mentioning it on the,
It's okay. For the record, it is very important to understand the FPPC, which is the Fair Public
Political Practices Commission.
Political Practices Commission, and that is the responsibility of all board members.
Yes, you did.
Oh, bummer.
So it's very important.
You used to own that property, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hey, Julian,
right,
it's on
right.
tape.
Tom bought it.
It's on tape.
Oh,
You
shoot.
can go back, you can see it.
Oh, it's on tape.
Yeah.
Great.
So I'm
So,
gonna do it.
It was very wonderful.
just for the record, as I was stating, is that the Fair Public,
Click
The
the practice.
the FPPC, you all are supposed to know what that means. And that is your responsibility as board members, and it's important for you to know that information. And then this memorandum that we have from 2020 allows us to do that. So,
And just to clarify,
give us some more time if there's any more question
Right.
about that potential conflict of interest. Give us more
Okay.
time.
and potentially, just broad strokes for the public's knowledge, the distance that would be qualified as a conflict is 500?
It is,
It's 500 feet, or if you have a financial interest in that. So even if it's far away from you, but if you are a owner or co-owner or would benefit, that's sort of what's covered under that.
so I would say that I'm not gonna agree or disagree, but
Okay.
those are two potential conflicts of interest, but there may be more because you all would want to be up on the FPPC.
Okay. And they do occasionally do trainings on those sorts of things, and we can let you know if that comes up. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Not for this.
Okay.
I had a
Good.
question about something
Okay, we've
else.
got board matters in just a moment.
Okay.
It was wonderful what she said about her.
She's
She
great.
did- Yeah. And she came up with it. Okay. Da-da-da. Okay, agenda item number 10, and I should just say that Board Member Lopez has rejoined us.
Good.
And Board Member Roth is free to speak his mind. Matters from board members.
I guess the one I was gonna bring up, was that we need to figure out how to respond to Simone and Rick Sachs's comments. Whether we put them on as an agenda item next time or whatever, but I don't think we could leave them this.
I second that,
Yeah,
yeah. I think that we should address that at our next
and
meeting.
I think we did address it when we did the, Molly reminded me, when we actually did the permits, but I think we've been requested to visit that, and we should revisit it.
And
The agenda item.
what I was mentioning to Alan that I remember is that when we were at that site visit, it was stated that sliding doors are allowed if they look like French doors, that the function is not, prohibited. A function, a door that opens this way versus this
Are
way.
we talking about sliding glass doors or the signs?
I
So
don't know.
this is, yeah.
Both, I think both, we need to be all responsible, in my opinion.
But yeah, so do you imagine that as a response that we would agendize like something like that, like,
I put it,
or
I think we
just,
should put that, I think we should put that on the agenda, because
just to
first,
like respond
Just
to?
to respond and then potentially put something on the agenda
Okay,
To have a discussion.
to have a discussion about the approval of
And
it.
an action, you have to have it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So-
I clarified with Julia a few months ago that any board member is welcome to put something on the agenda if they're wanting, but staff needs enough time to
Yeah.
look into it.
Yeah.
And if it's an exceptionally heavy agenda, they may ask to put it on a future one. There's some leeway on that, but just that we can do that. Other matters from the board, I don't know what you guys think about this, but I was noticing on the minutes that it says the public comments, but it doesn't say if they're for or against. I think it might be nice to know if they're in support or not of the project, but maybe it's not always obvious.
Yeah, I don't think it's always obvious. I mean,
So just,
sometimes it is,
so we'll
but
just state that they're
we don't
here.
want to interpret it the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I'm thinking about it, I think Julian's right, I don't think we want to interpret it. I mean, if anybody wants to go back and look at the tape, they can
Okay.
do that.
It's just that from the minutes, you like, you can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's what their action minutes. And I'm gonna jump in on the, matters from the board. Jesse, I'm being turned off. So am I on the board for the October meeting or am I off?
I believe your last date was November, is not?
Oh.
I thought it was October,
I think
but
it's
yeah.
October.
Can you let Member Roth know if he is sitting at that meeting or not?
Mm-hmm.
Our next meeting
I
is
can
set
actually,
is.
I'll call the clerk of the board, because it's in their jurisdiction.
It is.
I'll give them a
And
call.
it's on the executive office's commission's
Yes,
website,
yes.
when your last date is.
And I was trying to figure out whether that I should be in attendance or not. But that being said, regardless of whether I am at the October meeting or not, that creates one more vacancy.
Yeah.
So
Which-
my pitch is to the public.
Yeah.
And
While
Yeah,
you
but-
guys were talking, I did tell everyone again.
Good.
I'd also like,
Hold on one second.
Just
Just to do that,
put an application in through the clerk of the board of supervisors, either online or get in contact with Ted Williams, who's the
a pointer.
who's this District 5 supervisor who has jurisdiction over the board.
Go ahead, Julie.
so I'd like to add to that or clarify, I do have a friend in town that reached out to Ted a number of times with no response, and she was interested in joining the board, and she's basically kind of given up. I'm gonna try to go back to her again, and
Because
can
she
we,
applied, right?
is she, well,
My understanding is.
I don't think she did.
Definitely have her get an application from the clerk of the board.
Okay, so it's
I have emailed all of that information to you.
To
She
her?
wants to, if she's interested, she has to go through, it's just like applying for a job.
you
You
applied
have to go through all of the procedures.
They got rules.
and you laid those out to her,
No, I show you
to me,
in
and
an
then,
email
and she was
to share with her, because it doesn't have anything to do with the board of supervisor, or the board of planning and building services. It
Right.
has everything to do with the executive office. So you did these things. Now, if you were able to get a hold of the board of supervisor in your district to do that, great. But you could still start the process going through the executive office. So you need to, any new member will want to start that due diligence with those application links. I don't need to be good at handwritten application.
So, okay, I will also try to get that person to apply.
Thank you.
And I have maybe one other person, and then I will, but, I'll
Yeah.
check in
Yeah,
with Ted
mine
and be like,
depends on
okay, we need to get this done.
My potential applicant just went quite honest, by the way.
I think this one will.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, I really want that too.
is this the time I can ask a question?
Yes, this is still matters from the board.
So, directed to you, the appeal of a approved, of an approved project, what does that look like and how, how does that work?
Right.
So
Why
can
would
it be,
anyone, a member of the public would appeal?
can a member of the public appeal in
Anyone?
anyone and then who, let's say Tony was the person that submitted this request, he has to pay
The
a
county?
fee
Yeah.
to, and then does that appeal come back to us?
Nope.
Nope.
Directly to the board of Supers.
Okay, so let's do a really quick recap because this just
To
happened.
have during this meeting, this is a good thing to.
Right,
talk
so a number of meetings ago, there was a discussion of the roof on the Shell building. This board declined the application. The applicant chose to appeal. So that was the I think, okay,
The applicant.
the person appealing is who pays. So if someone else wants to appeal the Tony decision, that other party would pay, not Tony. Does that make
I
sense?
understand.
So if Tony, it almost always is a negative result that people want to appeal. I mean, I don't know if, I'm sure it could happen with a positive, like passing something. But in the case of like the roof, the applicant appealed it to the Board of Supervisors, and the Board of Supervisors overturned that appeal. Overturned our,
They overturned the board's decision,
Right,
and they
decided to
granted
let
the
it happen.
applicant to be able to re-roof in a comp roof rather than a metal roof.
and if
So
the
the
Board
board
of
can
Supervisors,
supersede you, but through the appeal process, somebody has to pay the fee and apply for the appeal within 10 days at the clerk of the board, not with planning and building services, and it gets put on the board
And then
of
it goes to
supervisors
yeah.
agenda, and planning and building services knows about it, because we are informed that we cannot issue the MHRB permit.
until, yeah.
And there's a
And
whole
so-
section on it, but summary is that
So
any,
Yeah.
any
if it had
permit
gone
you
the other
can't
way-
just call and say, I disagree. You have to have a fact-finding reason, you have to have a substantial good reason as to your argument. You also have to pay $2,700, and you also have to submit an application.
And so in this example, the supervisors could have maintained our decision, in which case the appeal would have,
Building and planning came back and said, we really didn't have the wherewithal to reject it anyway, and recommended that the fee be waived in this particular instance. Well, that's what
so
Judy
that's,
told me.
that's what happens.
I didn't listen to the board of supervisors, so
No,
I'm not gonna argue it.
Right.
Julia sent me a note, and that was forwarded to the board of supervisors.
Oh, interesting.
As a recommendation.
Okay.
I probably still have it.
I think you are right about that, and I think that it was because of the different MHRB regulations that have changed since the past requirements, and the regulations that it was subject to at those times, and how our staff interpreted the current regulations to uphold past conditions of MHRB permits.
So just, that's the process. If
I
we do something that
Julia
people
had
don't like.
sent that, no, I don't have it on my phone, it's on my.
I believe she did send, it's
All right.
probably at the beginning of July,
Yeah,
and it
it's
might have
on
been
there.
the latter part of June, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I never keep stuff
So
on my
I
phone,
think-
it goes back that far.
Okay, so I'm gonna,
So
is there any other matters from the board?
So just to correct, because we've done a lot of really good discussion that we can have with all of us present.
Yeah.
So just to verify, what I heard is that Roth, you would like to have the requests that have come from, Saks and OHM on the agenda, but I do not know what those, I know what Saks request is, we just have,
The other one was Simon, Simone
Your second name, I can't remember.
Pacides.
okay,
Pacides?
About the sliding glass.
She wanted, so basically we'd like to agendize a response, a time to respond to those two items. The first one I don't think requires staff, but the second one, we might need to be reminded because we have updated our sign process, and so we might.
Yeah, I'd like to, I didn't write down the actual,
Jesse has the comments, it was basically, but I think that
if.
needs to be two separate things.
Yeah, and it needs to be two separate things, but on the agenda, I'd like to see reference the, review board permit that was questioned, whatever it was, I can't remember.
okay, I do have the permit numbers that Simone Pacides.
No, but it's not so much the history, it's so much as the one that she was objecting to.
Yes, so I have,
So
she's so specifically about 3 different permits, and I have all of those on file. So what I will have, just so I'm clear, is that Rick Sapp's comments will be a requested topic on, as a matters from the board. The comments from Casillas with the specific MHRD permits will be
Responded to.
another topic that I'm putting on. And then,
That's an agenda item.
Yeah.
yep,
Under
so,
matters
but
from-
they're under matters from the board, and what I believe is that there are 2 matters from the board that are going to be on the table.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Do I remember, or am I remembering incorrectly, that any memorandums will be prepared by the board?
We talked about that, we don't have the expertise to be able to prepare this memorandum.
Okay,
That was
so
what we
this is just an item to be discussed with
Yeah.
no information.
I think
Or
we
any-
would-
I mean, I could get you language for the item, it would be like, response, to public comment regarding sliding doors. I think that's
I
basically
think it's
her.
one specific, we only want to cover that one specific permit, I think. We don't want to.
Well, she has, they were all sliding door,
Yeah, no, but the rest were examples of
Right.
another turning and everything else, so
right,
we just need to respond to why we did what
to
we
the
did. by-
Cato Street one.
Okay,
And
And
if-
then on the other one, I
I
think
will
we should-
provide a copy of the statements from Rick.
that is perfect, but also if we could get a copy of the previous memo, the streamlined sign. Remember the
The
stream?
ordinance.
Yes, if we could have that.
And I think
Uh,
probably reference of go back to the SIAS, if you can put in the MHRD
So you could
applications,
streamline it, that was the whole point. And so this is-
the application numbers, so that we can, and the dates, so we can look it up. It's on the website. It'd just be nice to see which ones she referenced, so that we can do that in advance.
Okay, good, okay, that's what I wanted to make sure that I'm just doing,
Yeah.
I'm not doing a whole memo, because my
Nope.
understanding is
No.
that staff is not
Yes.
doing memos, but I
Yes.
do have this.
But you have our previous,
6 and number 0001. Okay, perfect. And that Chair Roth's matters from the board, there's 2 new positions. Is that an item that's on the agenda? Just
No.
Okay, not an item for agenda, just topic. Just making
What
sure.
happens?
Now, regarding signs, I would just like to bring it up to the board now, because staff, we discussed the sign permit that was on the consent item today, and we couldn't find the findings consistent with the signed copy without rewriting and amending the regulations and the town plan. And it was because of terminology that's written in the Mendocino Town Plan and the Mendocino County Regulations for Division 3. And remember all the discussion we had about ordinance amendments, rewriting the process. So that, because staff was like, why am I taking in this application? Why?
yeah, why didn't it just, yeah.
And it's because we haven't amended our regulations at the upper, we haven't done an ordinance amendment.
So the ordinance has to say that an existing approved sign in a new location is allowed? You have to change it to say that?
Right, so the sign ordinance specifically, and I have it here because it's a big deal.
Oh, it's painful.
It's painful. It is, because we have to go back and forth with it. So, signed copies that don't need to come to you guys at all are up to the planning and staff to determine. As long as we can determine it conforms in sign size, design standards, similar in color and design to the original sign that is permitted, not larger than the sign, and it's in the same location. And the new sign proposed
It was a new
today
location.
was not in a new location, but it was not the same size. It was not the same shape. The colors were fine, the location was fine, everything, and we went back and said
So-
to make any exception to any one of these
Has to
And the board cannot do that at the board.
Okay, can
You
we just,
can't, you can apply for an ordinance.
can we just include that for that discussion?
Absolutely, because we did review that for the last time,
Okay,
because it was everything except for one thing.
I apologize, I'm going on like 3 hours of sleep, so I am gonna, is there any other matters from staff?
Staff does not have anything at this time.
Move to adjourn?
For which we thank you.
But hey, this is much better.
Move
Look
to
at this.
adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I heard Sanders, motion that.
Yes, at 7:35.
Who's seconding it?
Second.
Perfect. Unanimous, all in favor?
Aye.
I have on my to-do list to have a thank you thing for home, and I